All right, Burnout to All Out gang. Whether you're in a season of wild success or you're in a season of resistance, no matter where you are in the journey, you are going to want to listen in to this segment today. Today was actually a keynote that I feel really, really passionate about when it comes to the journey that we're on as entrepreneurs and how we can actually embrace resistance. So if you're in a really challenged season in business, maybe you're not hitting your goals, maybe you're continuing to hit the same wall, I really want you to lean into this episode. It's a heartfelt segment that I did at my own Burnout to All Out live event in Austin, Texas. Take notes, DM me after you listen. Let me know what resonated with you. Need some effective, tactical advice that actually helps you get results and makes a real difference in your life and business? You've come to the right place. If you're finding yourself here today, it means you're getting ready to gain serious traction in your business, rapidly multiply your income and impact, and you're ready to make it happen while living all out. Guys, I'm Melissa Hinault, your trustworthy corporate dropout turned six-figure business burnout turned happy and healthy CEO of a multi-million-dollar online business. And you're listening to the Burnout to All Out podcast. On this show, we're serving up innovative growth strategies, simple implementation methods to put them into practice, and action-stimulating inspiration tailored specifically for the modern entrepreneur. Let's dive in. My goodness, thank you, Sarah. Thank you. So, Preston, you really teed us up really well for this segment. We're going to talk about embracing the journey. We've been talking a lot about, I love what Preston said about how we're all in different seasons. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about here today in this segment. You guys know I like to keep it raw, keep it real. So how many of you are experiencing, let me know, one of the best effing years ever in business? Raise them. Let me hear you. Let me hear you. Yes, louder, louder. That's amazing. Now, how many of you feel like you've just had the shit kicked out of you this year? Okay? How many of you are in one of those seasons where you're in the middle of getting a lesson, or what I like to call a blessing? Maybe you feel like you've had your fair share of challenges this year. The thing is, what if I told you that both seasons are incredible gifts? Am I right? Okay. The thing is, when you're on top of the world with all my friends who are like, yeah, this is the best year, just incredible. When you're on top of the world, it's easy to see the feedback, the good, positive feedback that the universe is giving us about our actions. Is it not? It's pretty clear, right? When you're up on a mountaintop, you can see. You're at the peak and you can see. When you're hitting your goals, you feel like you can see. You're getting that reward, right? Through the actions that you're taking. But here's the reality, and this is where Preston's segment earlier, and you guys really hearing from each other, all of us in different seasons, the reality is that mountains don't continue forever at the mountaintop, do they not? At some point, the peak stops. At some point, the peak stops. So what do we do in the midst of the inevitable? This takes me back to when I first kicked off, when my makeup artist, Stephanie, had asked, what does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? It takes resiliency. We're not always living on mountain peaks, are we? And we celebrate with gratitude when we are on the mountain peaks, but they're not always here. So my goal today is we're going to go through a couple of things. I want to help you embrace the journey that you're on, no matter what season you are in the moment of entrepreneurship. And no matter how big or small your business is, you will still hit new seasons with it. I also want you to see the value of both mountaintops, valleys, and everything in between. And we're going to give you some survival tips to keep you healthy and strong as you hike from peak to peak. How does that sound? You guys up for it? Okay. After lunch, anybody have any margaritas? I hope not. Does anybody have any alcohol? I get you guys right after lunch. So the human experience, this is what we're going to be talking about, whether it's today, it's tomorrow, or next year. Life is messy. Challenges come our way. We can't avoid resistance. And I want you to hear this. We can't avoid resistance if we're pushing the edges of unknown. It's the skills to navigate this space that allow us to truly, truly thrive and become that resilient, successful entrepreneur. So I love this quote by Winston Churchill. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. So let's look at, you guys know I love to just give my own personal examples. Let's look from the outside in. This year has been a challenging year for me. I was here last year on a mountain peak on a rocket ship. We grew 380%. We did 3.8 million in revenue, right up to the top of that mountain peak. How many of you guys have heard me proclaim all year, we're going to do $1 million launch? Who's heard me say that? We're going to do $1 million in revenue in 9 days. Has it happened? No. Have I failed? So let's talk about that. Now let's look at the flip side of this. Like I said, we grew at that 380%. What I want to point out is you see those mountain peaks? What I want to point out is that last year on this stage, you see that first mountain peak to the right? We got to the top of that mountain peak, that first mountain peak. And we were like, fuck yeah, we did 3.8 million. I can see the top of the next mountain. We're going to go for 6. It's easy to see it from that one mountain peak, is it not? But what I didn't see was that it wasn't a straight shot to the top of the next mountain peak, was it? Did I have to go actually down and then go up in order to get to the next peak? But from my vantage point, before I started my journey, it looked really simple to get there. You guys resonating with me? Okay, cool. So growth to the next summit. When we're in the midst, when I talk about that mountain peak that I could see from this peak to that, I'm like, we got it. I can see it. Let's go. And the moment I get going, what's the first thing I have to do? Go down. Sometimes we have to go down and sideways to go up. And in those moments, you can start to feel self-doubt. Can you not? Start to question yourself. Start to question if you're making the right choices. There's disappointment. There's discouragement, a sense of failure. And this is what makes the difference. We were just talking about this over lunch with Preston, where people have these moments in life, these moments in business where they fail and they have a choice. It's a perceived failure. We're going to talk about this. It's not actually, spoiler alert. But there's moments in life where you choose. That's it. I failed and I'm done. I'm a loser and I'm not going to try anymore. Or the flip side is to take a look at the lessons and the blessings and forge forward, which is what we're going to talk about today. So with that, what if I told you you're not actually failing? What if I told you you're not actually failing and you're actually not sliding back down the mountain when you have perceived setbacks? How many of you have already told yourself that crappy story this year that raised your hand and said you're having a bad year? How many of you have told yourself you're sliding backwards? Okay, be honest. How many of you have told yourself I'm sliding, I'm falling from where I was? How many of you guys have felt that way? Okay, yes, be honest. What if I told you you're not actually failing? What if you're actually conditioning to be molded and prepped for the future? What if you just don't yet have all the information and you don't have all the skills yet? Or the nervous system with the capacity to hold what you are consciously calling in? Okay? So you need time to create that capacity to hold. I don't have the mountaintop here, but now you guys see it. When I'm standing on that one peak and I can see the other one, I'm thinking I can just jump from here to there. not recognizing the work that needs to be done structurally within my company, within my own nervous system, systematically to get to the place that I am calling my next goal. Does this make sense? Okay. So it's not life's events that are causing your problems or your stress. Okay? It's your resistance to life's events that is causing you to be uncomfortable. It's your resistance to these events, okay? How many of you have had scenarios where you're like, this wasn't supposed to happen? Do you know how much energy you are leaking and wasting on a scenario that you think you already decided in your mind, in your head, it wasn't supposed to happen? Motherfucker, it happened. And it's actually happening for you. You just don't see the lesson and the blessings and how you're being sculpted in order to hold what you are calling in. It's your resistance to it. Okay? So the problem is caused by using your will to resist reality of life passing through you. And many of us have different beliefs spiritually. I truly believe that I am destined for a journey. And I'm being taken on a path that's sculpting me and preparing me for each level of growth. And as much as I can hit resistance in certain phases in business and phases in life, when we can, and I heard Preston talk about this earlier, when we can just accept at face value what is happening to us is happening for us, no matter what, bottom line, point blank, it's happening. And how can you move with it instead of resist it? I have a really great example when it comes to kids, okay? The week and a half leading up to this event, I had so much time cleared out of my calendar to prepare for this. It's all scheduled. And guess what happened? One of my 3 kids was sick every single one of those days while my husband was out of town. Okay? Jake finally got home, and it was my last day to be able to work on this event. I had the whole Friday blocked out. My son, 7, standing barefoot on a soccer ball 2 minutes before I was able to get him on the bus and get him out of the house. He turns sideways, busts his knee, not just on the door, but at the very bottom of the door with a little piece of plastic about this big that went straight into his knee, and he began to scream, "I need stitches." I look and I'm like, he needs stitches. What immediately went into my head when we talk about resistance? This wasn't supposed to happen. Did I get pissed? Here's the funny thing. This is the lecture I was supposed to work on. It was like God saying, boom, right? As I'm driving to the emergency room, all I could think, I caught myself, and I was like, this was supposed to happen, motherfucker. This is like, it did, right? So embrace it. Slow down. This is happening for me. Stop resisting. The solution is to stop resisting what comes our way, whether it's what we anticipated or what we planned or what we didn't plan. Because many times, I will say most times, it's the things I don't plan that change me. So let's look at my perceived failure from a different perspective. I'm going to do an exercise with you guys in a little bit. I haven't hit my $1 million month yet. However, let's look at the coin from a different side. Coins actually have 3 sides. They've got the top and the bottom, and you can turn the coin sideways, and there's like the skinny part, right? But the reality is, when we look at it from a sense of gratitude, 80% of small businesses fail in the first 4 months of being in business. Less than 5% of businesses make it to the $1 million a year mark, ever. And this year, we're on track to grow again and do $4.5, maybe $5 million. So here I am failing forward, by missing my arbitrary number that I set as an entrepreneur, and we can get caught in our value and our worth with assigning our value and worth to those numbers. Okay, so let me move on to my next slide. It's been a year, so this is what I want to talk about. We talk about seasons of growth, hypergrowth. We talk about seasons in baseline and plateaus, which we're going to talk about as well, and then reload to take off. And it's been a year of internal growth. It's been a year of conditioning within my nervous system and with the organization of my company to have the capacity to hold what I'm calling it. Does this make sense? It is okay to have a base camp year to prepare for the next ascension. So I'm still gaining the skills necessary to have that $1 million launch. I'm not a failure. I'm not assigning, if we can deconstruct our ego, right, to the assignment of these arbitrary numbers we assign ourselves, because you will run yourself ragged as an entrepreneur. I heard you say it too earlier, Preston. Revenue in companies as entrepreneurs, it goes up, it goes down, it goes this way, it goes that way. And the quicker you can pull your self-worth away from a single number and value in your business, the better off you are. And this is for the highs and the lows, because you can get addicted to the high of the big number. And when you're not hitting that number, your self-worth starts to degrade. Is this making sense? And this is the thing we talked about during our mastermind dinner the other day, is the companies go through, and I want you guys to write this down. Companies go through hypergrowth and acceleration. Last year, we went from 1 million to 3.8 million in revenue in 365 days. This is rapid growth and acceleration. What do companies do during hypergrowth? You hire. You actually hire wide. You bring in as much support as you can. You start bringing in more opinions and ideas from other people. You grow your organization. And then companies go through plateaus and pruning. How many of you guys have owned businesses long enough to experience this yourself? You have to go through the plateaus and the pruning to, third step, reload for growth. And we are currently in the process of finalizing our plateau and pruning and fine-tuning our reload strategy for growth in 2025. So, in the midst of difficult terrain with no mountain peak in sight, so I want you to continue to envision, here was this mountain peak. Now I've had to go this way to go this way. Do you have the resiliency and the tools and the vantage point to see your way through to your desired state, to see your way through? And the thing I want you to think about, and I really want this to ring home for you guys, is that entrepreneurship is like scaling a mountain that you've never scaled before. So when we talk about nervous system regulation and the capacity to hold, what you have to understand is that in order to be an entrepreneur, and the definition of being an entrepreneur is to be in uncharted territory, being a market disruptor, trying and doing new things. What does that mean? Well, at the basic science of it, it means that you're going to dysregulate your nervous system on a pretty consistent basis. Am I right? Because you're in uncharted territory and you can start to feel like an imposter. But the reality is you're just in an unknown space. You're just in an unknown space. So how do you get to the top of Mount Everest? Has anybody hiked huge mountains? Has anybody climbed a huge summit? All right. So Giselle gets this. Do you just go to the top of Mount Everest? Like one day you're like, I'm going to go to the top of Mount Everest. No. You have to get conditioned. First of all, you have to get conditioned along the way at each base camp. You don't just ascend straight to the top of the mountain. Your body physiologically has to grow and adapt in order for you to actually survive in the new climate. Am I right? Yes. There's headwinds, there's conditions. You have to acclimate to altitude. Like your body physically changes in order to ascend. So this is how we get to the top, and you have to have the right tools. You don't just go to the top of Mount Everest without the right tools. Do you think the tools that got us to 3.8 million are going to be the tools that take us to 10? No. Is it unknown territory for me as a CEO? Yes. Do you think my nervous system gets dysregulated on the daily? Yes. We've talked a little bit about this earlier, but the death of who you are for the rebirth of who you're becoming. This is something I want to talk about. I want to make sure I didn't. Okay. Yes. There's an actual physiological cell turnover that has to happen in your body in order to ascend to the summit. We have to be able to create cells that have a different hemoglobin concentration in order to sequester and bring in more oxygen for thinner altitude. I could go way down in a rabbit hole about this, but the bottom line is physically, the human body dies, cellular tissue dies and replicates and is rebirthed and born in order for this new version of you as a human to actually ascend up the mountain. Are you guys tracking with me on this? It's very similar in your businesses. Okay? Raise your hand again if you feel like you're in the depths of the shadow of the valley of death in one of the most difficult situations in business right now. Yes, be honest. What if I told you you are just in the middle of the death of who you were as the leader in that business that has to die before you're rebirthed and born into the leader to take your business to the next level? And so if you feel like you're in the thick of it and you feel like it's a death, it is. Celebrate that. Okay? Now, are you conditioned and chiseled enough to hold what you are calling in? This is just kind of a point of reflection. I want you to think about your businesses, think about the goals that you've set out this year. And if you're getting a significant amount of resistance to your goals, you may just be getting chiseled right now so that you have the capacity to hold what you're calling in. So when we look out at this mountain range, I also want you to realize, are there more peaks or valleys? Are there more ups or downs? There's everything in between. And the quicker we can come to grips and appreciate that it's the journey and that it's not always at the top of a mountain peak, the more resilient your baseline is to really run a business. When you can get into that mindset of shit is going to hit the fan, I just have to be ready to move through it and get the lessons from it and move forward. The more we resist when things aren't happening the way we want them to, we actually slow our growth. We procrastinate and slow the evolution of who we need to become by resisting the lesson that we need. And it's like Preston said earlier, if it starts with a tap and then it's a push, this resistance can just get heavier and heavier and louder till it's a 2x4, and you have to listen to the growth that needs to happen in order for you to hold what you're calling in. And another thing, for those of you who feel like you're totally sliding backwards, Sam and I have talked about this in our one-on-ones. For those of you who feel like you're in the cycle of shit and you are absolutely falling down the mountain right now, humor me this. Don't assume you're sliding backwards. I want you to think about the energy it takes to actually climb the next mountain peak. So if you feel like you're getting a tremendous amount of resistance in your business right now, if you feel like you're up against a ton of headwinds and you feel like you're failing, I want you to flip that coin on the other side. And humor me this. What if you're not falling at all? Is it actually, think about this, sliding down versus ascending? Which one takes more energy? Which one takes more energy? Ascending. Climbing, The mountain peak takes more energy, more resistance, more tools, and more strategy. So if you're feeling a significant amount of resistance right now, can we shift the mindset? Can you shift the thought process that I'm not failing, I'm not sliding, I'm being molded, I am growing, I am evolving to have the capacity to hold what I am calling in? And I just said that. What if the resistance you feel today is because you've left one mountain peak? You've outgrown that space. And now it's time to get uncomfortable, take on the headwinds and the resistance, and ascend to another. Because we can only sit at a mountain peak for so long. So what if instead of why me, you could be curious about the lessons thrown your way to prepare you? And this is something Sam and I have talked about multiple times. The lesson will continue to come. If you're getting the same resistance over and over again, you haven't learned the lesson yet. So what if instead of why me, you could be curious about those lessons, that they're there to prepare you for your growth? You just have to realize that life is giving you a gift. And I know that for some of you who are in the absolute thick of it and you feel like you're in the middle of a death, you're looking at me saying, this is not a gift. This is not a gift at all. I've been there in more iterations than you can even imagine. But that gift, and I love this statement, the gift is the flow of events that takes place between your birth and your death. These events are exciting, but they're also challenging, and they create tremendous growth. And when I look back on some of the biggest challenges in my life, in the midst of it, they were felt horrible, and I felt like it was the end of the world. And in reflection, they were massive, massive breakthroughs for me. It was a death, a physical death to evolve. So I love a couple of these definitions when we talk about a piercing look at gifts, the psychology of these gifts. A piercing look ignores the packaging and sees the gift. So the packaging in the middle of failure cannot feel like a gift at all. But if it's a piercing look through the packaging, there's true gifts there. We've talked about adversity equating to growth. I know you've heard this, but that which doesn't kill us makes us stronger. How many stories have you already heard of people picking up the mic and talking about some of the darkest spaces in their life that have now grown them to the impactful humans they are today? The extent of the struggle determines the extent of the growth. And the obstacle is the advantage. Write that down. The obstacle is the advantage, not the adversity. And when you're sliding downhill instead of climbing up, so we talked about, are you evolving and climbing? But if you are having a backward slide, set the expectation that you're not going to live on the mountain peak forever. Whether you're sliding down or climbing another mountain, the reality is, we're just pausing at these certain peaks for a great view before it's time to pack up our bags and move to the next base camp. And the more that we can make this appreciation for life and resistance and how we're going to continue to have adversity that grows us and embrace it instead of resist it, we can gracefully move through life and business. And I have the most beautiful video that I want to show you guys. Let's see. Did I pass the video already? One more. Okay, that's really cool. You guys are going to love this. So the large majority of our time, we're growing, we're climbing, we're learning. This peak is just temporary. We saw that there's only so many peaks on the mountain. Everything else is a freaking journey. It's a journey down. It's a journey up. It's a stabilize at base camp. We talk about this in our coaching program. Some of you are in a base camp year where you're pruning and you're reorganizing after hypergrowth. Or we've talked about base camp years that are reprioritizing your goals. Maybe it's a year where you're like, whew, last year was amazing. We grew really fast. This year, I just want to level out. I want to hang at base camp. I'm not ready physically or with the tools to go to the next climb, and that's okay. This mindset keeps you from being disappointed. And instead of running from the hard, embracing the hard, embracing it. And so I want to show this video because it's so beautiful. Can you dance with the waves instead of resist the waves? So as the waves are coming, are you hitting them head on or are you moving with them? One of the most beautiful analogies Sam has given to me this year, in my year of growth, is this vision of, is it seaweed or it's a lily pad that's attached to the bottom of the ground, the bottom of the ocean. And although up above, it can feel as though I'm being frantically moved around, I'm actually very grounded at the base of the ocean. I'm very grounded, but I'm not resisting the resistance. Does that make sense? I'm embracing the resistance and moving with the resistance. Really cool scientific study about bees. They did this study where these bees look like they fly erratically. It makes absolutely no sense to the human brain why a bee doesn't fly from here to that flower, even though that's the flower the bee goes to. And instead, the bee is on this wild, erratic flight that takes like 12 times the amount of time to get to the flower. Does anybody know why? Because physiologically, physics and aerodynamics, the bee can't beat the wind. The bee can't beat the wind, but the bee knows its destination. All right, Burnout to All Out community, it is a last call. Yes, you're hearing it from me. We literally have, at the moment of this recording, I believe, 2 seats left in our coveted Elevate 360 Mastermind, where we believe we must take a 360-degree approach to business because bodies build businesses. We cannot separate our bodies from our businesses. And in the Elevate 360 Mastermind, if you've listened to any of my recent episodes, our clients talk about the power of learning to slow down and be still in order to excel and propel through the strategic business mentorship that we coach, but in parallel to the inner work necessary in order to expand and hold what you call in. Oh my goodness. If you've been listening to these episodes and you're curious about potentially taking a look at the mastermind, my friends, it is a last call. The application is in the show notes and you can apply today. And if it looks like you're a good fit, we'll reach out to you and we can take a call to see if it makes sense for alignment for your goals and your business and how we could serve you in our community in 2025. If you're listening to this, the question is, who's mentoring you next year? What is your strategy? And what community are you surrounding yourself with so that you're inspired for what is possible, right? But not only what is possible, but what are you doing to nurture the body and the mind to persevere and expand and grow while taking strategic action in your business? That's what Elevate 360 is all about, on top of some incredible live experiential events and one-on-one coaching that you get with myself and my CIO. It's the only place in my company you get one-on-one coaching. So if you're curious, don't delay because I promise you the seats will be gone. Would love to see your application come through and we can chat about it. So with that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this episode. So the bee has to embrace the unknown, unpredictable wind that comes its way and move with it gracefully till it gets to its destination. Can we look at our own journeys in business this way? Make sense? I love this wave video. So to effectively handle the flow of life and business, your heart and mind must be open and expansive enough to encompass reality. This is reality. This is what's happening. The only reason we're not is because we resist the reality. We're leaking so much energy with the this wasn't supposed to happen. It was. It did. So how do we reflect on it? And we're going to do an exercise on this in just a couple of minutes. So when you learn to embrace the challenge, what used to be stress-filled circumstances will begin to actually look like stepping stones towards alignment in your business and perhaps alignment in your spiritual journey as well. Humor me this, that it's perhaps stepping stones that are necessary for where you're headed, right? So don't run from the challenging hike. You're in uncharted territory. You're getting chiseled. This voyage is absolutely necessary to get to undiscovered lands. We have to be molded to hold what we're calling in. So don't run from this challenge. It's a constant spiral upwards. I already hit on this a second ago, but what I love, and I'm going to share some examples with you guys in a minute, is that we can run into similar scenarios. I really view my journey as a spiral up, but I'm spiraling, and I can run into certain challenges in life and business. And if I reflect on it and gather the lesson I'm supposed to, the next time I see it, I respond to it differently because of what I learned the first time. So humor me this, that first resistance prepared you for the next time this bigger opportunity gets in front of you. Is this making sense? Okay. So fear of hard or failing is keeping you from growth. Again, I go back to the original question of getting my makeup done this morning. What is the one thing that makes entrepreneurs different? What makes them successful? The willingness to fail. So many of you are playing small because you're afraid of failing, whether it's because of your own primal brain trying to protect you from failing because it doesn't want to take care of you when you're disappointed, or because it's the fear of what other people are going to think or what they're going to say. But the reality is the failure is where the growth happens. You're hearing me stand up on stage nearly 8 months into the year, publicly proclaim, I claimed $1 million launch this year, and it hasn't happened. And that's okay. My business is still growing. The quicker you can be okay with failing, the quicker you're actually going to get the lessons and you fall to fly. You fall to fly, right? So do something different today. Embrace challenge with curiosity. Embrace challenge as if you're climbing and as if they're gifts to prepare you for your next ascent. I want to give you guys some examples myself, and then you guys are going to run through a workshop. The reason I'm doing this whole segment with you guys is because in January of this year, I set a goal. Our final launch last year, I think we closed out at like $780K. We started last year, January launch, $300,000. March launch, $500,000. September launch, $700,000. November launch, $780. So what does Melissa say? We're going for $1 million in January. There's nowhere but up, right? And through a series of events we'll get into, we did half the revenue goal we planned. And it felt devastating. But you know what it made me do? When things don't go the way you planned, that's when you're willing to think differently. It's the only way you think radically differently. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that moment in January, I'll never forget sitting in a hotel room with my journal and saying, I need to reflect on every moment in my career as an entrepreneur that I felt like I was failing. And I want to journal it and reflect on what was the output. When I was in the moments of the depths of the shadow of the dark, ugly girl cry, bathroom floor, snotty, the world is going to end, I'm going to write down every single one of those right now. And now I'm going to go back and reflect on how it changed me and how it was actually a blessing. And this exercise was life-changing for me in my vision this year, and I want to bring it to you. Example number 1, 10 years ago, corporate America, director in big pharma. Melissa, congratulations. You still have a job, but we've consolidated the entire division from 12 directors to 2. And now you're going to have to be on a plane 4 days a week and never see your kids. I know Jake remembers that. It was terrifying because I felt like the rug had been ripped out from under me and I had no choice. I felt like I had totally lost control. But guess what happened? When I felt like I totally lost control, what did I do? I started to think radically different. And I thought, maybe I should start something on the side. That turned into a side gig that matched my corporate income that got me out of corporate America in 19 months. So in the middle of the depths of the shadow of the dark, when I felt like that rug was being ripped out from under me, I was metaphorically and physically dying to be rebirthed, to come out a different person. And the death had to happen. I never would have thought that way if I hadn't been pushed into a corner and forced to think radically different because I felt like I was failing. So when you feel like you're failing, reframe that. There is a lesson happening for you right now. Example number 2, Preston helped work with me on this. That first business that I built was a 1099. It was alongside a network marketing company. Nothing against the industry. It changed my life, taught me entrepreneurship, and got me out of corporate America. But it was also a blankie for me, and it felt safe. And when I started to build my personal brand, the company that I was affiliated with said, you got to choose. You can't do both, Melissa. And for that moment, I felt again, and I know Jake remembers this, I had to make a decision between keeping that income with the network marketing company or owning my own brand. And I remember being out in my backyard on a phone call with Preston on a Saturday in tears trying to figure this out. And he was like, you are bigger than this. This is a blanket. It served you for a time and you're grabbing a hold of it out of fear when you can be so much bigger. And when I felt like the world was coming to an end and I walked away from that company and completely let go of my income, I know Jake was like, are you sure you want to do that right now? I remember. He was like, It felt like a death. Let me tell you, it felt like a death. What happened after that? Here I am today, right? So I can go on and on and on. Actually, I love this statement. The wound is where the light comes in. The wound is where the light comes in. Let me give you 2 or 3 more because I know you guys need some examples because you're about to do this yourself. Okay. Jackie, remember on where is Jackie? She's out. Okay. 2020, is Danae in here? Yep. Well, this was before you, Danae. We'll get to you in a second. I had just launched my coaching business. I'd made about $20,000. My accounts got hacked. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, PayPal, Shopify. My clients were being sent invoices by hackers who were taking over all of my accounts. And I had a choice. We talk about those pivotal moments where you curl up in a ball and you say, I tried, or you pull up your big girl panties. And for a day or 2, I really just wanted to hide in a closet. It was a month-long journey to clean that up. I wanted to crawl into a closet with some ice cream and some wine and say, I gave it a bat. I'm just going back to corporate. It was awful. Jay had to take time off with his computer. He would come home from work because we weren't sure where the leak was. And we were trying to reset everything on his work computer that had serious security on it. It was awful. But guess what? It prepared me to protect the shit out of the empire I have built today. Right? The universe was preparing me. The universe was saying, bitch, get your shit in order. You can't have the same password for everything and scale a multi-million-dollar business. Right? It was happening for me. How about I made $1 million in 19 months. You guys have all heard this story, but guess what? I'd never run a business of that size. It doesn't matter how much money you make if you don't know your numbers. The money comes in and it flies back out. And Jackie had COVID and was sick in the ICU. We weren't sure if she was going to live. And I didn't know how I was going to pay her. It was awful. Did I feel like I was dying? Yeah. I felt like I was dying. That was the week I got COVID and was isolated from my family except for Walker. He and I were in a room together by ourselves, and I picked up some Joe Dispenza. And I was like, here we go again, right? In the depths of the shadow of the dark. I truly believe sometimes God, universe, whatever, takes you to these places where there is nowhere else to go but to speak to God. Because that's where the clarity happens. In that perceived failure, I got to work on nervous system regulation. I got to work on the inner work and the mindset and the reprogramming that needed to happen in me so that I could evolve and become the leader that my company needed me to become, so that I could hold what I was calling in instead of dropping it all, because that's what was happening. It was falling through my hands. So I learned how to do the inner work. It gave me the vision for modern entrepreneur that we run today. I learned how to read a profit and loss. I hired a CFO. It prepared me for where I am today. November of this past year. Talk about feeling like you're dying. I'm on my way home in November. No, it was October, from my own mastermind that I'm in. And Jackie calls and she's like, we have a problem. I'm like, what? And she was like, we got a cease and desist from LinkedIn. What? We're about to run ads and we get the news that LinkedIn is a trademarked label that's another company. I call my business coach and I'm like, oh my God. And he starts laughing and he says, I know this sounds really sick, Melissa, but two things. Number one, congratulations. You've made it big in business when somebody finally wants to sue you. And number two, you are so big that one of the top social media companies in the world has identified you and the success you're having, and you're being attacked, and they're making an example out of you. So this is a great journey, and this goes back to some of the lessons with Preston, and this is where Chris and I were like, you're so much bigger than LinkedIn. Quit hiding behind that word. Rebrand. It was such an incredible journey for us, learning the value of organic lead generation again, rebranding ourselves, being bigger and beyond the word LinkedIn. And a lot of crap came up about fear that I didn't realize I hadn't worked through. And a big piece of what was holding me back was not doing the inner work I needed to do as a leader to have the confidence to take forward action in my business, because every time I felt unsafe, the guards would come up, even when it was irrational. And so I immediately got to work with Sam on past traumas that I've experienced since childhood. And when I tell you it is work to do that, it is work. Sam knows this. I always have looked forward to my coaching calls with her. But when I also signed up for the trauma work with her, those calls in the calendar, I was like, not looking forward to the work, but knowing that the work was necessary to clear the energetic paths of the fear that was holding me back as a CEO from when I was this big. So many blessings and feeling like it was the end of the world that have created the business owner that I am today. Is this making sense for you guys? Okay. One last one, because this is fun. We'll end on a high note before it's your turn. So I've been spending all year, so this is real time, literally this just came out of my back pocket 3 days ago. All year I've been $1 million launch, $1 million launch. We're going to do it. All I wanted to do is be able to Vane. I want to be able to claim 7 figures in a month. We've gotten so close to it that it's my ego that wants to be able to say it. So I thought the vehicle needed to be the launch that's already gotten so close. And it took all this resistance all year long until this week, sitting with a mentor to say, there's about 5 million inside your business right now. If you could just strategically be nurturing your clients internally and ascending them directly into build, grow, scale, why are you spending so much time and money going out to the cold market to try to recruit more cold clients that take a significant amount of time to nurture, a significant amount of potential money in ads, when you're bringing in hundreds of people every other month into a program that you can strategically nurture and ascend into build, grow, scale? Much easier, much lower lift. And literally in 2 days, it was like, holy shit. But here's the reality. Do you know I never would have looked inward on that had I not gotten the resistance on the thing I kept trying over and over and over again this year till I got hit in the forehead by a 2x4. And I felt like I was failing. And now all of a sudden I'm excited because I see this massive opportunity that I never would have seen if I didn't get put into a corner with the thing I thought I needed to be doing to then think radically different. Is this making sense? Man, I'm so hot in this suit. Okay. So now it's your turn. Oh, and also let me just say this. It is wildly necessary as we embark on this journey that we continue to understand our purpose. These are the tools necessary for the climb. Take a snapshot of this. Purpose, are you connected to your work in a way that you would go through a brick wall? The shadow work and the inner child work. You guys got a taste of that this morning. I'm not going to get into a rabbit hole about it right this second, but you know, we have to unravel and look within and not cast blame. We have to take radical responsibility for these bodies. Bodies build businesses. Nervous system regulation. I can't tell you, Sam, how helpful tapping has been for me this year. When I wake up at 2 a.m. in a panic, it's a lot of responsibility. Mo money, mo problems. It's a lot of responsibility to run a big business. It's no easier than managing a smaller P&L. I would argue it's a hell of a lot more stressful because there's a lot on the line. I've caught myself, I wake up in the middle of the night and with tapping, within minutes, I'm back to bed. Do you have the tools in your tool belt to regulate? To self-regulate as an entrepreneur is critical. We have to learn how to self-regulate or you'll drive yourself into the ground. And the ability to unblock and think creatively. We're going to expose you to some fun stuff today and tomorrow if you've not been exposed to with some creative work. Okay? So we're going to do a group exercise here. And it's going to be broken into 2 parts. The first 5 minutes, I want you to reflect on a business challenge. And it has to be far enough back that you can actually reflect on the blessings in it. Okay? You can work on something that's happening right now, but if it's so raw, this isn't going to serve you. I want you to actually, because this was so therapeutic for me in January when I felt like I was hitting another wall, is I want you to go far enough back in your life, far enough back in your business. I want you to journal a scenario where you felt like it was the end of the world. Maybe it was your corporate scenario I told you. Maybe it was when you were just whatever. You were hitting a brick wall and you weren't getting what you were looking for. Give me the ugly girl, ugly man, snotty cry on the bathroom floor moment that you can recall and reflect on the blessings that actually came out of it afterwards. Okay? This is your exercise for the next 5 minutes. So I'll let you guys turn on some music and we'll start for 5 minutes. And I'm going to grab some water while you guys do that. Okay?
I came here with a broken heart that no one else could see. I drew a smile on my face to paper over me. But wounds heal when tears dry and cracks they don't show. So don't be so hard on yourself, no. Let's go back to simplicity. I feel like I've been missing me. Was not who I'm supposed to be. I felt this darkness over me. We standing on top of the world, right where I wanna be. So how can this dark cloud keep raining over me? But hearts break and hell's a place that everyone knows. So don't be so hard on yourself, no. Let's go into simplicity. I feel like I've been missing me. Was not who I'm supposed to be. I felt this darkness over me. We all get there eventually. I never knew where I belong, but I was right and you were wrong. Been telling myself all along. Don't be so hard on yourself, no. Learn to forgive, learn to let go. Everyone trips, everyone falls. So don't be so hard on yourself, no. 'Cause I'm just tired of marching on my own. Kind of frail, I feel it in my bones. Pulling my heart turn into stone. So don't be so hard on yourself, no. I like to wave goodbye. I'm not to see my life through someone else's eyes. It's not an easy road, but no, I'm not alone. So I won't be so hard on myself no more. Don't be so hard on yourself, no. Learn to forgive, learn to let
Look at the clock, so now I'm like, I don't know. Do you guys...
everyone falls. So don't be so hard on yourself, no. 'Cause I'm just tired of marching on my own. Kind of frail, I feel it in my bones. Pulling my heart turn into stone. So don't be so hard on yourself, no. 'Cause I'm just tired of marching on my own. Kind of frail, I feel it in my bones. Pulling my heart turn into stone. So don't be so hard on yourself, no.
All right. Okay, guys. Now, here comes the fun part. This is where we're going to share with a partner, okay? So just someone close by, because I want you to inspire each other. Because did some of my stories of just being at rock bottom and it turned out to be okay? Did it inspire you? Where you're like, maybe I'm all right? Yeah? Like, maybe it's not rainbows and unicorns for Melissa all the time. Okay. So what I want you to do is just turn to a partner, find a partner. And over the next couple of minutes, I want each of you to share what was the challenge and how did the challenge change you? What was the challenge and how did the challenge change you? Okay. Give you guys a couple minutes to do that. Okay. You can turn my mic on. All right. So did everybody have a chance to share? No? Okay, 2 more minutes. Okay.
Thanks, guys, so much for listening in on today's podcast episode. And I can't wait for you to see my upcoming guest in the next episode. You are going to love this keynote speaker. Hey, here's the deal. If you liked this, please subscribe and leave a review. And you want the latest online business growth strategies and exclusive LinkedIn pro tips sent straight to your phone? Text the word update to 704-318-2285. That is, text the word update to 704-318-2285. Can't wait to see you guys. Come find me over on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you like to hang. Cannot wait to hear how you are enjoying and applying what you're learning. You guys reach out to me over on social because I love hearing what's resonating with you. When you reach out to me and you send me those personal DMs, they really do impact the content I continue to bring forward to you. So again, come find me, Melissa_Hinault over on Instagram, Melissa Hinault over on LinkedIn and Facebook. Can't wait to see you guys over there.